My name is Megan Linos, and along with me are two nursing faculties are going to demonstrate what they have done in their classroom using the web conferencing tools. And this is Dr. Kelley, Kelley, who is a nursing faculty, and this is Margaret Wheatley, also from nursing school. So before we start to demonstrate what they have done in the classroom, I would like to just go over really quickly about what web conferencing is really all about. And most of the time, when people talk about web conferencing, and you think about, okay, this is a webcam, you hook up with a computer, and you'll be able to meet with people virtually online. And then a group of people, you can meet, you can talk, you can do all kinds of stuff. And this concept or the model has been widely used in the business setting for cost-beneficial reasons. And however, my question to you is, how does it benefit learning? If you just have a webcam meeting online with a group of people, does that have any value in teaching and learning? So I would like to just really quickly talk about, I break down education into three major buckets. So you kind of have a lecture to talk about fundamental materials, and then you have some sort of resources for students to explore more, like study after the class and stuff like that. And at the same time, you might have some projects or classroom interactions. You allow students to apply what they actually learn and read from the lectures and the material, and how they actually can apply into real practice. Like case studies or problem-based learning and stuff like that. And then I start to look at all the features that's available in today's web conferencing tools. And I kind of summarize them and categorize it into these three buckets. And then you realize a lot of these, they are either features or teaching strategies that you can actually use using the web conferencing tools, which fully fits in these three major areas. So there's definitely potentials that people can use such tools, no matter it's in the distance learning setting or hybrid setting. They are going to enhance the learning, which we're going to demonstrate really quick. And the reason why I invite two nursing faculty here is because there's a desperate need in the healthcare industry right now. If you look at this chart, was actually generated in 2008, and you see that gap is being spreading harder and harder. And the scary part is this quote says, by 2020, we will have about more than 1 million vacancies in nursing education. What does that tell you? That means that the nurses are gonna be occupied taking care of the patient. By the same time, how can they update their professional continuing education still to be competent that can take care of the need for the society? And I think technology might be able to solve that issue. So I'm gonna turn the presentation to both our faculty to show what we have done. This is the very beginning, and we're still exploring, but Dr. Wheatley is gonna demonstrate how to use web conferencing in creative teaching, and Dr. Kelley is gonna demonstrate how to use web conferencing tool to generate collaborative learning between students. So here you go, Dr. Wheatley.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me in the back? Okay. I teach psychiatric mental health nursing to sophomore students, and in the past, the first thing that I needed to do is to review the syllabus with them. And can you imagine, I have two, one for didactic and one for clinical. And the first class is taken up with both of them. And it's like documentation. If it's not written, it's not done. And with students, if you don't tell them, they don't have to do it. They don't have to remember. And even when you do tell them, mine is not the only class they take. So with all that information that they have to know, they are going to forget something. And when I heard about a new method I could use, I decided to use Adobe Connect to take my clinical so that the student can read it and hear about it at their own leisure. My other problem with issue with the use of the classroom in terms of the information that was necessary. Psych mental health nursing is one of the core courses that need to be taken by the undergraduate nursing student because it's a major piece of information that's used on the examination they need to take to obtain their license for their RN. And so there's a lot of information they need to know, and it takes up the whole classroom, so you don't have the flexibility to use case studies and use other applications to clinical nursing. Also, in terms of there's a time constraint, there's never enough time to give them the information that they need. And also, they're a captive audience. And supposedly, you need to give people a break every 10 minutes when you're giving them this type of information. So when their eyes start glazing over, I know I'm in trouble. So I'm going to show you two demonstrations that I use to help ease not only the students' pain, but my own pain. The first is to my right, so it must be to your left. And I'm going to give you a demonstration before I explain. Well, let me explain first. What I did was tape myself, and you can do this anywhere, and that includes your own home. Just so long as you have a suit and a shirt on at the top, doesn't matter what you have on below your waist. And I did it in my office. And I taped the not the clinical, but the didactic syllabus. Now, in the classroom, it takes at least an hour to do this. When I taped it, it only took 12 minutes. Hello, my name's Margaret Wheatley, and I am the professor for your didactic class. And I will be, in this taping, reviewing the didactic syllabus, starting with where my office is located. And it's on the second floor inside the Hearst Institute, and the room number is 230H. My phone number is 216-368-6272. My email address is mxw65@case.edu. And that's probably the quickest way you can get a hold of me. My office hours are Tuesday from 1:30 to 4 o'clock p.m. and Wednesday 4 to 6 o'clock p.m. Other times are by appointment. Following the faculty information for me, I've listed the course description and the course objectives. I would like for you to read it and be familiar with it. There are 8 objectives listed. Beginning on page 2, the educational support is provided. I'm available to meet with you to discuss academic accommodations, but you must be registered through the Office of Disability Office of Disability Resources first, and there I have to go over this information almost line by line. Number one, they need to know up front where my office is, up front my telephone number, because that next week, they need to call in if they're sick, and they need to know where to call, or else they say, oh, well, I didn't know. And as you notice, as I'm talking, the syllabus will read downward for you and go to the next page without your having to do anything. So it's great. My other, I did a pilot also this year in terms of my lectures. Because I needed all the time to do the lecture, there wasn't time, as I said before, freed up to do other things. So next year, and what I did as a pilot, I'm going to tape all my lectures up front. The student needs to be able to view and know what's in the content before they come to class. And let me give a demonstration of this. And you also need to know, that was the first time I used Adobe Connect when I did that syllabus. And I felt that I was on stage and I was the only person in the room.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Wheatley, and I'm here to talk about the common characteristics of personality disorder. Personality disorders are difficult to diagnose and treat. People with personality disorders often do not see themselves as troubled, let alone having a mental illness. Many people with personality disorders think their only problem is that other people mistreat them or misunderstand them. People with personality disorders appear stuck in their problems. Their behavior is so inflexible that they never seem able to change to a new approach, even when it's obvious that their old strategies are not working. Now, there are 3 clusters of personality disorders, and they're clustered based upon their behavior. Cluster A, let me first say that they're clustered in terms of mad, bad, or sad, and cluster A is considered mad. These are behaviors that are described as odd or eccentric, and there are 3 personality disorders that are.
Now, these are the 2 ways that I use Adobe Connect, and they really save the time in terms of my preparation, and in fact, the students were more prepared. When they came to class, they already knew the information. Also, the student can review the materials over and over again at their leisure, multiple times. And also, it lends to more class interaction and more collaborative learning. I plan next year to introduce the things that I have been wanting to do for a long time, and that's case studies and discussions and other things that I didn't have time for. And I am a believer in Adobe Connect, and I encourage you to use it. If I can use it, you can use it. Thank you.
Okay, let's give a round of applause for Dr. Wheatley. And I do have to say that I was really impressed when she came to my office and I did a half-hour quick step-by-step instruction. I did not show a lot of features. As you know, these tools tend to have a lot of features that you can use. But what I really show her is how do you get yourself on the monitor and how to get your audio set up and how to hit the record button. And she went home, she just called me and said, I did it, and I was really surprised. So a lot of that also showed us for the faculty support people in the room, if there's any. A lot of times, you know, basically identify what faculty need, and then basically just demonstrate or training them just that one part at a time. And usually not only you will result with much pleasant experience, and then there's a lot of smaller chunk of projects can be accomplished without spending a lot of time trying to go over every single features that might not be needed for that particular case. And now I'm gonna turn the presentation to Dr. Kelley, who has done a tremendous innovation, encouraging students to collaborate on group projects virtually. So I'm gonna give her this mouse.
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me? I think you can hear me now. Well, good afternoon, or good morning. I am going to talk about Megan's asked me to come and talk about my experiences with using Adobe Connect. I teach an online pharmacology course at the School of Nursing for the last 3 or 4 years. And basically, right now, our course is asynchronous. It's lectures that are pre-recorded and downloaded into, on Producer and downloaded into Blackboard. And then how the students interacted with me was via discussion board. We had a discussion board every week or every other week. And for any of you who use discussion board, you know that it can be really, really time consuming on everybody's part. And you really want the students to read everybody's discussion, because if they only read your comments, there's not a lot of, learning taking place or interaction, as Megan's was talking about. So over the summer, while I was thinking about preparing for what I could incorporate new in this course, I thought, Skype, that's what I'll use. I'll use Skype this year, and I'll get a small group together. I'll split the class into groups of 3s or 4s, and we'll all meet on Skype. And I was set to go with that until in mid-August, Megan came to the school and did a presentation on Adobe Connect, and I thought, that's great. That looks really easy. I'll use that. And plus, Skype and I had some personal familiarity with Skype, and it's free, and I thought I could use that. But Adobe Connect is also free to us here at Case, so I thought I would use that. So of course, I had all these grand ideas about how I would use Adobe Connect, and use all the applications that Megan showed us during her presentation. Well, that wasn't going to work. That's kind of how I usually think. I think grand until somebody can talk me down and say no. And without Megan's help, I wouldn't have been able to do this. Adobe Connect has many more options. As you know, Skype is really phone conferencing. And what I was looking at students being able to do a presentation. They have case study assignments and do a PowerPoint presentation where they would present what they learned from the case study and answer the questions that I asked. So I decided to go with Adobe Connect because they could speak through their slides just as Margaret did on her presentation. So my ideas were for Skype. I changed to Adobe. That was the reality. I used Adobe Connect. I thought, well, we could have weekly discussions on Adobe Connect. Well, I backed down from that a bit too, because they do have 3 or 4 hours of lecture to listen to, and it's a 3-credit-hour course. So you have to, you all know you have to be recognize the time that students are putting into class in addition to their assignments and their preparing for exams. So I kind of threw that weekly live discussion away, and that's when we decided to go with the case study assignment. So they had 2 case study assignments. One was going to be on Adobe Connect, and one was going to be the normal way, the way they had done it. They were allowed to prepare their answers on 1 sheet of paper, and they would just email me or put them in the digital Dropbox. So and how I wanted to do it, I wanted to have this presentation be live. The students in the group would be live with the 2 faculty. I co-teach with a pharmacist, and we were going to be live, and it would be the group of us, the 5 of us, listening to this presentation. Well, after meeting with Megan for an hour or more, she talked me into actually having the students pre-record their case studies, because once we get all live at a designated time, if there's any kind of glitch in the students being able to download or being able to start their presentation, then everybody's sitting there waiting for this to happen, and it may not happen, and it could be very time consuming. So Megan worked with my groups of students individually. She was wonderful. She emailed all of them. They set aside times to meet with her online, and they pre-recorded their lectures, which myself and the other faculty were able to listen to. We gave them a deadline. We needed that a week before, so we could listen to it before. And so now our live session turned into a discussion about the case study. One thing I wanted to do, I wanted to record all these sessions, because the whole class wasn't in these live sessions, just the group of 5 of us were in a live session. I was going to record them and have the whole class be able to watch everybody's session as if we were live, all of us in class. But I didn't incorporate that added time that would have taken for all the class to review the sessions, because the sessions ended up being an hour each, although I thought they would be about 20 minutes. So I didn't, and a few of them I forgot to press the record button, so my learning curve was very steep too. So then it wasn't fair for some students to have theirs posted. So to get started, I attended private sessions. I attended the session at the School of Nursing, and I attended a private session with Megan here. And because Adobe Connect was really a late thought in August, I wasn't able to meet with Megan before class started. So I told the students we were going to use Adobe Connect, but I felt that their anxiety level was probably as high as mine. I had no idea how it was all going to work, but I assured them it would work, and Megan worked with them quickly in the early fall. But I mean, some things that I absolutely should have had to tell the students right up front is they needed the required headset. And to my surprise, nobody had a headset available to them because they actually needed the headphone headset, not just the mic, because a lot of the students had the mic, because there's too much background noise if they just use a microphone. My responsibilities were to have a headset myself, have the students get a headset. I had to be able to retrieve the student recording and how to manage the meeting. And really, all I had to do is be able to manage who was, click on the people who wanted to speak. So that part, I mean, and it was great because I just used this small application in Adobe Connect. I wanted to take on the world and create these pods and do all these things, but I took Megan's advice and she said, try one thing this year or this semester, and then add on to it next semester or next year, and that's what I plan to do. The students, they had each group had a 60-minute meeting with Megan where they recorded their presentation, so they were ready to go at the time that they met with her. They uploaded their PowerPoint presentations to Adobe Connect like Margaret showed, and then they had to attend the live discussion. So myself and the other faculty listened to their recorded presentation, which I'll show you in a minute, and then we came back into a designated time where we all talked together about their presentation. The lessons I learned from this, the students were very anxious about this. I was very anxious also, but the students were very anxious about how this was all going to work. With the technology in general, I think they were just anxious, even though they had Megan, that they were, she was with them the whole time they were recording, and Megan is kind enough to sit in our first few live meetings to be available when I was like unsure how to let people have speaker rights, because it's amazing how much, when I watch things, I think I understand it, and then when it comes down to me clicking the mouse, I had no idea what I was doing. One thing I needed to learn was I needed to have a criteria to grade the asynchronous presentation, the recorded presentation, and the live discussion. Because what happened in our live discussion, sometimes students didn't speak. We would pose a question to them and say, well, what did you think of this case? Would you have done anything differently? And one student out of 3 would be the one speaking. And we'd say, well, does anybody else have a comment? And they were completely, you weren't even sure if they were there. And maybe they weren't, well, they were there. But we didn't use the webcam. That was my other lesson learned on the bottom, that I would incorporate a webcam. We did a few of these sessions in the evening because it was best for the students, but it wasn't so late that people would be like ready for bed or anything. So we should have done a webcam. The students, though, I found this was a case study presentation. This was their second presentation. They weren't prepared to participate in a live discussion. They were used to this asynchronous online course where they really never spoke. I mean, everything they did was by writing on the discussion board. And I don't think that they were only prepared what was written on their slides. They weren't prepared to take it beyond that. And I realized that I probably didn't prepare them, that they need to be able to discuss this case more in general, not just the points they made on their slide. Because they don't need to discuss when they turn in their other case presentation, which is a one sheet of answers to the questions. I think to do this again, or for anybody doing this for the first time, to schedule your live discussions during the day when you do have people like Megan around. Because when things go wrong and you're not sure what you're doing, 7 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night, there's not a lot you can do. And it's really hard, as you all know, to get 5 people together at one time. Was probably the hardest part of it. I have 2 things that Megan did tell me about that I actually need to incorporate in the syllabus next time is that because this is technology based on the internet, they cannot use wireless internet to do that. They can use it, but it's not as stable to use wireless internet. So you know, a lot of our students are anywhere. I mean, they're in Starbucks, they're everywhere doing their lessons and listening to lectures. So they need to be somewhere where they're wired to use the Adobe Connect. And the other thing is, a lot of organizations and institutions have firewalls that don't permit them to get on Adobe Connect. So we just ask them to check this out before they, you know, don't try to get on for their live presentation while they're at work at the hospital and find out that they can't even get on. But this is what the students did. This is just an example of their case presentation.
We have a 16-year-old female, Miss S, who was hospitalized for an asthma exacerbation. She developed respiratory distress after hiking outdoors. Her exacerbation resolved with nebulized albuterol.
So that was basically what we listened to. There was a time limit on it. It was supposed to be about 20 minutes, no more than 25 minutes long. So myself and the other faculty listened to this presentation, and then we were all brought together at a designated time where we would discuss the presentation. And usually it would be the same. We were reading up the comments that we would discuss if we were giving them written comments. So why did you start them on this dose? Or would you have considered using another medication? And that's where the students, they couldn't answer outside the box for that. And this is just another example of, I'll just show you briefly, just another presentation.
This study is about Mr. M, who is a 35-year-old male who presents to us for ongoing severe.
So I thought it was a great way to improve the integrate interaction and collaboration for this online course. It's basically asynchronous. We only meet once in person, so I don't even know what my students look like, and we're having all these asynchronous discussions on discussion board, and sometimes you're not even really sure if it's a student who's responding. I mean, basically anybody could be writing what they're writing on discussion board. And I think it would be great to use the webcam the next time to see facial expressions, and for them to see my face as well. But things that I would do differently is I would encourage and inform the students that this is going to be a discussion. It's just not going to be their presentation because we've already viewed their presentation. This would be to discuss the case study. But I thought it was a great way to bring the students in, and maybe we'll do both of our case studies live. But it wouldn't have been possible without Megan's help.
Well, I am blushed. But let's give a round of applause for Dr. Kelley. We're very fortunate at Case that we have a lot of faculties like Dr. Kelley and Dr. Wheatley is willing to spend the time and try new things in the classroom. And that's why we're giving us a lot of opportunity to learn and how to encourage creative learning. And just by sitting here, listening to what Dr. Kelley has described, and it just pumps to my head that this technology possibly might encourage students learn more comprehensively. Like if we all went to college sometimes in our lives, and you know when you give in an assignment to do a presentation or even a group presentation, most likely you are assigned to study a certain topic in that entire presentation. And what do? You just prepare your slide. And how does that gonna benefit students to understand the entire topic by preparing the presentation? Unless the group works really well and they talk to each other, they understand each other's parts. They only know the part that we prepared. But by using this technology, potentially it just hit my head. You know, we might allow students to see the topic more in more deeply, and also. I didn't really spend that much time, if I may just kind of I didn't really spend that much time with the student. The reason why the case was really successful as a pilot is that I did not particularly choose Dr. Kelley as a pilot testing. What happened, and I start to think about it, she has 12 students in this classroom. It's a graduate level nursing class, and there are 4 groups. So I'm working with 3 people at one time instead of 20. And that makes the life a lot easier. So what happened is that they are all meeting virtually. I did not meet them in person. So what I recommended them is that they can spend additional 15 minutes with me before they take their presentation, so I can facilitate them and try to get their mic and camera or PowerPoint set up. So that works really well. So maybe that could be a little tip for you if you would like to try this strategy in your classroom. Maybe start with a smaller group. And then, so I did it 4 times, 15 minutes. I met with Dr. Kelley for one time and set out the strategy, and then we just let the game play. So the next, I really would like to demonstrate some of other ideas that you can use web conferencing tool in teaching and learning. One is asynchronous collaboration. This is actually a greeting card that I made for my class when I was in grad school. And one of our classmates was in surgery, so I make a card. Everybody can actually write down their comments to this particular friend. And think about this part for a second. This is a whiteboard. And if you actually use that as a slide, or if you use that as a picture, or use that as a flow chart, and throw out a question, and let people come into the site at different time and comment on what they think about this particular problem. This literally can be turning as a smaller bulletin board. And it's very focused with just one little topic, one little case. And I think that will be very interesting and effortless. So that's one example. And another example is that I think this will be very cool to use as an office hour feature. You know, you can actually have an office hour at 8 o'clock p.m., especially for nursing. You know, a lot of nurses, they go to school while they work at the same time. Everybody's gonna not be able to come to your office hour in your office. If you set out some off work time or whatever to fit their needs, and this could be a great tool. You can just stay at home and get on there for 20 minutes, and if anybody wants to meet you with questions. Or this will be a great tool for review session. You might not wanting to use your valuable classroom time to do review. Then you can actually say, I'm gonna have review on Sunday at 5 o'clock p.m. Whoever can come, great. If you cannot come, it's recorded. So in that way, that would be a great idea to use. And another thing is that it will be a great tool for collaborative presentation for more than one presenters, and they are all physically in different locations. In this case, we have an event called Global Forum that is hosted by the Fowler Center Dr. Cooper-Ryder, who had this appreciate inquiry methods that used to see how we can make the world better. And this is one of the presentation that presenter pre-recorded before the event. So you can actually do that. If you have 2 faculties co-teaching the class, literally this is a great tool to do that. We also did a webinar online conference for this particular international group. And as you can see right here, there are 85 people in the room at the time, but we do the phone bridge so people can also dial in. And I think the participation supposed to be 200, but we really don't know the number changes. But this could be literally, you know, like today's conference. We can actually use this technology to deliver as well. So that will save a lot of traveling time. So these are some of the ideas I would like to add on to these two professors' demonstration. Now, here comes the question. We have the privilege to have a lot of wonderful technologies available on campus here at Case. But it really depends on the school budget, and also depends on what, the situation of the colleges. You might not have these tools available to you. So I'm going to give a very quick overview of 3 different systems, and some of them are free that you can get onto it right away without having any budget ahead of time. And you can try very basic features. Obviously, the free version usually gives you very basic feature, and then you can actually upgrade by paying a certain amount of fee. So what I will do is I will start with this feature, this tool called Big Blue Button. This is something that I found it in a fluke that is actually hosting Google Code. It's a Google Code winner last summer. This is absolutely free for anyone to have it in their school IT, but you do have to work with the IT professionals to install it in a server. And once that's done, the tool is available to you. You got a little attendance list right here, and you can use voice if you don't have a webcam. Here is your presentation. Your PowerPoint can be loaded here. There is a text chat that you can use. For that purpose, the demonstration I just gave with the Get Well card, you can basically just have this text chat pod one way, and then have this PowerPoint with your curriculum, and you can start using this technology without any time. And then obviously you can use a webcam, and then you have a desktop sharing. And there are 3 little buttons right here. It's extremely easy to use. There's only 3 buttons to click. One is to enable your webcam, one is enable your headset, and one is share your desktop. And again, this is an open source application that anyone can install in your server. And what I like about it is that it has a perfect integration with MOODLE. So MOODLE is another course management system, just like Blackboard and WebCT. What you can do is you can insert, for example, a room, a Big Blue Button room for virtual office hour. Or you can actually have group rooms that the group to me. So you can actually set up a lot of different strategies for your class using this one particular application. And another thing I want to talk about is something called Video. This particular application is really good in just web conferencing. So if you don't want to show PowerPoint, you don't want to show any desktop sharing, that is more like a secondary needs, but face-to-face is extremely important. For example, like social work, like psychology, you want to have this face-to-face practical experience with standardized patients that you want to see the facial expression. This is a very easy to use tool. You see this red here is supposed to be green. When you are in a wireless setting or your connection is not stable, it will show in red to let you know. And the system will automatically adjust the quality to meet your connection, which is really smart. And all the buttons are just all right here on the strip. And they have very simple desktop sharing. You can also do full screen. There's a separate layout. You can adjust your webcam. So what's so different in video than other tools that I see is that you don't share your entire desktop. You choose whatever the file that is open on your computer, and it's very easy to identify the source of your input, like your video, which webcam that you want to use. You might have already one built in and you have a USB one, or which audio source you want to use. So you can just select it without much testing. And then the last thing is also very nice is that you can choose the connection quality. So if you are not in a very stable internet connection, you can choose the limited bandwidth. In that way, it will adjust the connection quality. So that's another system I would like to show. Obviously, Adobe Connect is the one that we use at Case and that we had the most experience of. And it's almost like this comprehensive enterprise system that every possible feature you can think of is available in this tool. And however, there is something that's free similar to Adobe. Oh, actually, let me just go through this. The reason why I say it's so comprehensive is that it has a lot of unique features that other tools I introduced earlier not available. For example, recording. Recording is absolutely a great feature for teaching, like what Dr. Wheatley and Dr. Kelley have demonstrated. Once you have recording, people do not have to attend a live meeting. Whoever can attend, but if you record it, whoever missed the meeting can always go back to watch it. And also they have the breakout areas that you can actually meet with your class and separate it into different areas. So other technology, other application that I introduced, they don't have such feature. And the poll, you can actually have a quick survey on the content, or you can have a quick survey on when we should meet the next time. So that's really easy to use. Desktop control is more, I think, will be really beneficial for help desk. So they can actually request desktop control to control client's desk to do some setup, solve the IT issue. Meeting notes, you can take notes and whiteboard. These are very unique to Adobe Connect. But if your university does not provide Adobe Connect as a web conferencing tool for your teaching, then there's another thing you can do is go to acrobat.com. They actually has, this is a really wonderful feature for educators in my opinion, because if you see on the top, there are two areas. They simplify teaching by files and meeting. So you can store your teaching materials in one place for this particular class. And you can invite people coming to this area, almost just like a course management system. You know how Blackboard, we upload all our materials? You can upload all the materials here in files. And once you click on meeting, it gives you a small version of Adobe Connect, and that is free to you. All you have to do is sign in. So what does it give you? It gives you this whole share pod that you can actually share your PowerPoint images and stuff like that. It gives you text chat. There's a small, and you can drag these boxes around to the appropriate size. You know, you can actually show webcam if you would like. I try to put all the features in one view so you can see that. There is a whiteboard, and you can upload files here for downloading. So this is definitely a great, great, great tools for educator, and that has no cost to you. You can get on and use it right now. So that's it for our presentation today, and I would like to reserve some time for questions if you have any. Yes.
Can you export the pre-recorded Adobe Connect sessions to a more accessible medium like iTunes?
Yes, actually, Adobe Connect recording not only can be edited, you can arrange it like a Adobe Premiere kind of thing, but you can cut certain pieces off, and then you can export it into a Flash format, and then you can just basically put it anywhere you would like to be put in. Yes, it can be exported. Any other questions? Yes.
One of our executive education PhD executive doctorate programs is looking at, instead of having students come in for a residency, providing them with an interactive classroom experience. And I'm wondering if Adobe offers like the video conferencing where you can have students in the classroom in Cleveland and students in the classroom in Spain or wherever they're at so that they don't have to fly in, but have them all feel as if they're part of the same classroom at the same time with voice interaction going both ways and video and...
If you have, obviously we have Adobe representative here. They are available to you if you would like to talk to it. Steve and John, if you want to wave your hand, so you can actually talk to them in person about specific feature. But as far as I know, if you have the IT support that you need, what you can do is you can have a camera, not just a webcam, but the actual recording camera like you see behind you, and somehow hooked up with Adobe Connect to record the classroom events. And then, so everyone who is present, for example, a case here is being captured, or the professor is being captured as one view, and then whoever coming from Spain, from China, from everywhere, they can use their desktop camera to join. So it will make those people feel they're in the same room because they are together. So technically, yes, but you do need to have experience IT and also AV support to make that. And I'm pretty sure John and Steve will be able to facilitate on that with consultation. Any other questions? Yes.
On the Adobe Connect presentations, are they searchable with metadata? Can you look up a particular phrase in a PowerPoint and hit and do a search?
That's a very good question. I personally have not exercised the option, but I look at John's face and he knocked his head. So my assumption is yes, that is available. So you want to pass the microphone to John? Maybe he can answer that question. Yeah.
Okay, so when you record a Connect meeting and you've uploaded your PowerPoint slide, as everyone did in today's example, the slide title is automatically listed in a search field. So every time you advance a slide, the title of that slide is marked as metadata, and then when you're reviewing that slide, there is a search field, and you can search for slide titles. Okay.
Okay, we are about 1 minute over to our time, so I'm gonna actually end our presentation today. If you have any questions, feel free to come to me privately. Thank you very much for coming.